feel to be back, I guess, after a little break?
Feels good. You know, I felt re-energized in a sense. You know, not that we were fatigued by any means after 6 practices, but you know, you take a couple weeks off and you start. You know, the first few days off, you wish you were still out here, and then you kind of get used to being off, and then the last couple days you can't wait to get back on the field. So felt great. I thought the energy was really good, but by the players and the coaches.
Sark, it looked like, again, just kind of the first practice was of beginning of spring, really pushing tempo and really kind of making that an emphasis.
That was a big emphasis again today. We saw some things from the first 6 practices that we felt like with the tempo, one of the keys is you have to continue to push it so that we can minimize the errors, in the sense that if we keep pushing it, then we can critique the errors even more. That the natural thing for the player is to try to slow everything down and try to be right. We got to keep pushing the tempo, and with the tempo, now we can really critique the errors and minimize those errors on both sides of the ball. So there's a point of emphasis coming back this week, especially to get back to almost day 1 install and really stressing the tempo and the speed of practice.
Any initial thoughts of how they responded to maybe the added stress of continuing to push tempo and get after them that way?
Well, it's taxing. It's taxing physically, but it's also taxing mentally. You know, that you can get fatigued and you can make some mental mistakes. You can get caught up in personal battles at times, and when you do that, that's when you get beat, whether you're on offense or defense. But I really thought, all in all, I was proud of the guys. They came ready to practice today. They had kept themselves in relatively good shape over the break. You know, we're going to be a little sore after this one, just when you come out and do this much running. But I really thought that, like I said, the energy was good, their attitude was good. I thought that they competed at a high level today. We weren't perfect. There's plenty of stuff for us to clean up on both sides, but I like their willingness to come out and battle today.
Thanks. How different is it? This is the first year that you guys have split up spring practice like that.
I've enjoyed it. Like I said, I think that you know, one of the 2 things about spring ball that have always kind of bothered me, the traditional way when you just go 4 or 5 consecutive weeks, is one, you get a guy who breaks a finger, you get a guy who rolls an ankle, and he's out basically the rest of spring because it takes 2 weeks to get back. We had some guys early in spring get nicked up, and they were back out practicing today. So that was a real benefit for us. The other thing that spring, when you start going 4 and 5 weeks in a row, it can get a little bit monotonous. I don't care how many, you know, little tricks and things we try to give these guys to motivate them. At the end of the day, it can get monotonous just going against the same guys over and over and over again. So by breaking it up, doing 2 weeks and then coming back for these next 3, I thought the energy was good. The competitive spirit was really good in practice for the 3rd week of spring ball, and that's what I was hoping could happen.
It looked like there was a couple guys maybe on defense that have come back out that were maybe limited early, like a Brandon Beaver, some of those guys. Are you allowing them to maybe get a little bit more active?
Yeah, we got more out of Brandon Beaver today. He got out of his yellow jersey and was ready to go. We got much more out of Eric Kohler today. He was in full team drills and all that. We got to get his conditioning right now, but this is a lot just to jump into when you have him in condition that way. So, you know, again, the benefit of pushing this thing out and spreading it out and getting some of those guys back on the field. So that part was good.
And Eric, it looked like he was taking some snaps again. Is the thought with him more center right now, or
we're working him at both spots, at center and at right tackle. You know, again, the conditioning's a factor. When he got fatigued today, his snaps became a little bit errant. So we got to see what he really looks like at center when he gets in shape. But we're going to look at him at both spots.
And also Travell Dixon, it looked like he had a nice practice, a real diving interception, some big plays.
Yeah, that Travell, you know, what we were encouraged after looking at the first 6 practices with Travell was, you know, you got to remember last season he came in a little bit late. He had to redshirt because of being a transfer, and so he really was on scout team all year. And he didn't get the initial installation of our defense and wasn't playing in our defense as much every day. So for him to come back and then be in spring practice for 6 days, I thought he got better and better and better of understanding our defense, playing our defense, and it showed today. He was in the right spots at the right time and was able to make a few plays for us, which was big.
And how nice was it to get Cameron out here kicking and getting along
Oh,
with
it's
the
great.
guys?
Cameron's a great kid. He's got a big leg. We threw him right into the fire to see how he looks, and it took him a couple, but then he found his rhythm, and really excited about his future here. You know, obviously he's just getting started, but he's a great kid with a lot of talent.
Was he, Steve, one of those camp guys that you kind of had hidden under the surface there, and then people came on him late, but the fact that he had gone to camp?
Very helpful, you know, very helpful. And you get to know the kid, and so many times with kickers, you want to see him in person. You know, you don't know on film, you look at the film, if they're kicking the ball that's inflated too much, or what the wind conditions are and things of that nature. When you get them in person, it makes it a lot more tangible when you're making a decision if you want him to join your team. And then when you get around Cameron, he's a great kid, he's a terrific family, so we're excited to have him.
Do you have any feel of his temperament? You know, kickers are what they
He's a confident kid, but relatively mellow mannered. But he's a confident kid. He works at it. You know, he's a kicker that loves the weight room, which is relatively unique. And you know, I think that he'll be a guy that it won't be too big for him. He's made plenty of big kicks in his day, and he'll continue to do it for us.
Is kickoffs one of those the reasons?
Yeah, his kickoffs are tremendous. You know, I mean, with the new kickoff rule and where they move the ball back up, you know, we're hopeful with Cameron that he can put that ball in the end zone the majority of the time and minimize the number of kicks that we actually have to run down and cover.
You've given the background with Jordan and Marcus and their families, you know, their dads roomed together at UCLA and their friendship. Have you seen that communication and that bond between them show up in the mechanics of running your no huddle and just, you know, showing up on the same page?
Sometimes I look over between Jordan, Tui, and Johnny Nance, and they're speaking Samoan, so I don't know what communication they got going, but they've been great. You know, I think really been impressed with our offensive staff. You know, this is a pretty big change we've made from last year to this year, from the last 4 years to this year, and to bring together Tui back at with the quarterbacks, moving Keesaw to receivers and still coordinating, making Jordan a full-time position coach at tight ends, moving Johnny Nansen to running backs, and then keeping Kinzetta where he was. There was quite a bit of change on our offensive side of the ball, and for the operation to be where it's at today, I've been impressed with those guys. They've done a great job of not only with themselves and teaching it and learning it and all the things that needs to be there and doing it with confidence, but getting the players to produce and to make it happen on the field. And so I've been impressed with those guys. They've done a nice job.
In your review of the first half, what did you see from the quarterbacks?
I thought Keith, you know, we had 6 practices. I thought 5 of the 6 he was tremendous. The 5th practice maybe wasn't his best one, but the rest of them I thought he really played well. Again, that Saturday scrimmage, you know, partial scrimmage, I thought he was tremendous. He has got good command of this. I think the other, especially the other 3, when you talk about Seiler, Jeff, and Troy, they had moments where you really see the glimpses of what the future is going to be with those guys, and then you see some plays where you remind yourself that these guys are still young players and they're continuing to develop.
And Derek getting maybe some ideas at special teams or some.
Well, we're just looking at some
work.
things. You know, Derek was a punter in high school. He's a guy he's a good athlete. He's a strong kid. And again, we're always just trying to find roles for guys.
Was the 2-week break good for everybody concerned at quarterback position, so they digested it and then come back with, you know, having seen the video or knowing what the next progression is?
Well, I think so. And one thing we try to do for not just the quarterbacks, but for everybody on offense, we went right back to day one installation again today. So they essentially are getting the install of the offense twice in a spring practice. And so I think it'll be good for everybody, especially the young QBs, you know, where they get those plays really installed from a detail-oriented fashion, to where maybe something that was said the first time around when it got installed, they were so concerned about other things, maybe they picked that up the second time around. And so, you know, they're going to have some ups, they're going to have some downs. That's part of the growing process. But all in all, you know, our big concern is them having a good attitude and being open-minded to it and continuing to work and get better from one day to the next.
Is Mickens the likely holder? Are you still sorting that out?
Right now, Thomas Vincent's the holder for us, and he's done a good job. You know, Thomas is a kid who's kind of a jack of all trades. He was a quarterback for us for a couple years. Now he's playing on the defensive side at corner, but he's a gifted athlete. I have always been a guy that have liked a holder that can kind of do it all. You know, if you guys remember Steve Lyons, a baseball player, but can kind of do everything. And I think Thomas is one of those kind of guys. And to be a holder, I think you need to do that. That's why I really enjoyed having Cody Bruns as our holder for a few years. Willie Chandler did it for 1 year, because I think those guys, the moment never gets too big for them. It's just snap, catch, put the ball down, laces out, and let's kick it, you know. And so, you know, we'll see how it goes, but right now Thomas is the guy.
And you probably talked about this before, but the reasoning for the break is what?
Well, it's a lot. But a couple things. A couple things really were big for us. One, obviously, we're installing a different, I don't want to say it's a new offense. We've added an element to our offense by picking up the tempo, and so I wanted to give us some time to digest it and see what it kind of felt like after 6 practices, and that we were able to do that. I think the other thing it's allowed us to do is when a guy gets nicked up, because so many times in spring ball you get you roll an ankle, you break a finger, you pull a hamstring. Those guys get that extra time to rehab and still come back in spring practice and then contribute. We saw that today with Brandon Beaver getting back on the field, with Sione getting back on the field, getting Eric Kohler back on the field. That was big for us. And then the last piece is spring ball can get monotonous. You know, it can go 4 or 5 weeks of just kind of playing against one another. And this way, by breaking it up, I thought the guys really came back energized, focused, enthused to practice, not only the players but the coaches. And so for it being practice 7 in the first one of the second half of spring practice, I was really impressed, and I'm happy with what we've done. I'll have a much better and more of a complete assessment of it all after number 15. But so far, I'm pleased with the decision to do what we've done.
How will you know that the new offense is working? Is it just players are coming in and players are being completed?
Well, I think that, you know, we have some real, you know, defined things that we'll look at. You know, obviously, our ability to take care of the football, the number of penalties and where we're at, our ability to execute, third down conversion rate, explosive plays, red zone efficiency, are a lot of things that we commonly look at regardless of what offense we would be in. And so we'll do the same in this offense. Like I said, I've been really impressed with a lot of the facets of it. I thought coming in, I might have been a little bit more concerned with the football and maybe the snaps and the exchanges with the running back and the quarterback, which we had one today with Keith and Bishop where the ball was on the ground. But for the most part, we've done a good job of taking care of that ball. I think we've created more explosive plays from the offensive side. I think the red zone efficiency has been good. I'd really like us to be better on third down, but our defense is playing really good on third down, which is an area where we needed to be. So there's a lot of things that we're going to look at to really get to a point to where when we come out of practice 15, we feel good about what we're doing. And there's going to be some tweaks to this thing as we move along the way, because we're not a spread, no huddle team. We have some elements of the spread, but we're also have a lot of pro-style elements to this offense that maybe are unique to maybe of the no huddle that other people haven't been doing. And so it's not just on film. It's not somewhere we can go visit a coaching staff that's doing the same thing as us. We're somewhat creating it as we go, and that's the fun part of coaching, finding the right balance to do what you do best, that fits your personnel, that fits your scheme, so that your kids can be successful and have fun doing it.
I think you were at 65% TDs in the red zone last year. Do you have an acceptable? Besides 100, do you have an acceptable?
Well, I would say this. That number is, I believe, 16 to 70% lower than we were 2 years ago, when we were arguably the top red zone team in the country. I think it was us and Stanford 2 years ago. That coupled with 2 years ago, between turnovers on downs and turnovers, we only had 5 of those in the red zone 2 years ago. Last year, not only did we drop 15-16% in the red zone, we also had 10 turnover on downs and 10 turnovers. So not only were we not scoring touchdowns a year ago, we weren't even getting a chance to kick field goals. And so the red zone's a big point of emphasis of ours. We pride ourselves in scoring touchdowns. but we have to have regard for the football when we're there as well. And so it'll continue to be a point of emphasis for the next 8 practices as we move forward.
So 80-ish% is what?
I think 80 would be phenomenal. I think 80 puts you in about the top 5 in the country, you know, for sure top 10, which is where you need to be, you know. And I think that you know, we've got good schemes and good talent that allow us to be productive in the red zone. Now we need to maximize it.
Steve, you mentioned Sione, the club on his hand.
Yeah, he had broken a finger, and so he'll continue to wear a club, but he'll be back ready to go, I believe, Thursday.
And Pio and Lawrence
They're
were both.
good.
Is there a chance they might even be able to get some work?
No, we won't push it there. Okay. But they look good. Holly looks good, and we're going to need all 3 of those big guys to get back. Okay. And then Coop and Jesse are doing well. So, you know, they've had no setbacks, which is encouraging. They still have a ways to go till fall camp, but so far so good.